This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
Yes, welcome in. It is time to talk some pro wrestling here on 93.7 The Ticket, and a great week to do it, as I'm very happy. This is pretty much just going to be the Chelsea Green Appreciation Hour here on Nuclear Heat, as I think WWE is very much taking care of their mid-card titles right now, and that generally means a happy WWE universe, but of course you can never please everybody. So we'll break it down. There are different feuds getting set up as we move throughout time here, as we get things going here in this week, that I thought was kind of refreshing and fun, even if it was just for one episode. And in fact, Aleister Black in the main event scene, I thought it was kind of cool. Doesn't have to be something long drawn out. I don't think it's heading that way, but can just be something even for the week, can be a new and fresh matchup. So we'll get into it. We usually break down Raw and SmackDown every week, as well as if there's a premium live event. As always, tell your wrestling friends, if they don't know about us, to tune in every weekend, even every Sunday at 9 o'clock here Central Time, as we will do an hour of WWE talk. Augie is my tag team partner. Augie, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. It was a good weekend. Like you said, it's been a fun wrestling weekend, and the Huskers, went 3-0 on the weekend. So, it's been a really fun time.
Yeah, that always makes it better. We're not going to be in a bad mood coming in here because our sports teams aren't losing. Well, the Cardinals didn't do well today, but
yeah,
that happens. So you can't have every one of your teams win. Like I said, I'm just happy Chelsea Green is champ once again of this great United States, the country here. So let's start off with WWE Raw. Of course, a lot of intrigue this week will be particularly in who will be in the John Cena tournament, to see who faces him last. They even left us off here on SmackDown, and I'm kind of jumping, but this is involving both shows of a surprise entry that we'll see. It's been kind of interesting, the matchups that we've set up. They've got 16 contestants. A lot of them, I think, thus far that they've shown would be fun matches with John Cena, but don't feel quite like the moment of the big last match with John Cena. So we'll see how all this kind of plays out. I feel like they're holding some of their cards back, but should be a fun tournament one way or the other. And it's kind of cool because a lot of these different guys have their own things going for them. Of course, Dom Mysterio, a good example, Jey Uso in the tournament as well. So a little bit of a break even from their own storylines, or those can be, of course, entangled in. So I think there's a lot of intrigue and fun heading toward just something you can kind of create. I always say a match with some stakes behind it, even if neither of them's probably going to end up beating John Cena. It allows you just to dream for a minute and feel like you're at least watching something with something on the line. I mean, after all, we know about college football playoffs.
Yep.
I don't think every one of those teams is going to have a great chance at winning the championship, but a bigger playoffs means more eyeballs on screen just to see, how it's all going to play out. So initial thoughts here, Augie, as we get into it. This past week, they did not use any time for that other than promotional time to get to the John Cena tournament, but that's kind of the big thing on the horizon here.
Yeah, for the most part, you look at it, and like you said, none of them are what we would probably perceive as the last opponent, right? But it's fun because, not just do, I'd say 80% of them have feuds with, have had great feuds with John Cena. You had Rusev, you had all those feuds back in the day. Sheamus, of course, they had that. Jey Uso, with the Royal Rumble. And they're so I think it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of potential names, that can be dropped in there. And obviously some of those other things. Of course, being an LA Knight fan, the one thing that's disappointing is the fact that his opponent is a surprise superstar, which probably tells you he's going to be a first round exit, because you're hoping that these surprise superstars are, Chris Jericho, Edge. I know that, it probably won't be them, but, you're hoping it's not I don't even know, what type of a name, a Hornswoggle or something like that. You're hoping it's not one.
That'd be quite a surprise.
I mean, that'd be funny. Wade Barrett is there on the sideline.
there
you
you
know how cool that would be
That
if
would be fun.
the Nexus music hits and he's just wearing his Nexus gear. All that fun stuff. The one thing that's a little disappointing is I love the open. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. The opening segment where CM Punk talked and essentially said, "Hey, John, we could do it one last time for this belt." And that was a big tease. But then you realize CM Punk's probably not going to be in this tournament. So, that was a little bit of a letdown. But yeah, it's exciting. This tomorrow, right, is the first day in Boston that it starts.
Yeah.
The last Raw John Cena is a part of. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really intriguing. I was trying to run down again. I think the names that have been mentioned as of now are Sheamus, Shinsuke Nakamura, Damian Priest, Rusev, Jey Uso, and LA Knight. And again, I don't think any of those are necessarily going to be the last opponent. Again, there's some of them you just wish, this was also, I mean, as of anything, you're gonna have the own way that you would love to tweak it. I don't know. I don't see any way Damian Priest and John Cena really have much of a combination or anything like tying into it. Even LA Knight. So, has Shinsuke had history with it? I just wish they were all at least a little bit layered into John Cena's career. But you got TV time to fill. You're not a lot of contracts to fill. You can't just bring in everybody that was the 16 biggest opponents of John Cena in the past. But ultimately, where do you think or hope this goes? You mentioned certainly Edge, Chris Jericho would be a lot of fun. Jericho, there's a lot of rumors about him making his way back into WWE. Maybe this would be a time for it. Again, I'm sure they've had feuds. I don't necessarily think of him as so I don't know if that would be the best way to bring Jericho in as a return. But again, a lot of it's like, what are you going to do here? Is this final send off to John Cena? He wins celebration. Is this final send off to John Cena? He gives the younger guy the rub. A lot of different angles they can kind of go here. But I'm still hoping, the Randy Ortons, and certainly Edge would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping the final four, and this is just mine, is Edge, Randy Orton, The Rock, and Batista. I know Batista is probably, I think he said he's done. So that probably won't happen.
He's skinny now, so he's not going to look the same either.
Okay, we're going to talk just for a second here. He's skinny, but he is still 285 pounds. And he was talking about it. He was like 350 pounds when he wrestled.
Wow.
That's
of muscle.
Yes, of muscle.
Only muscle.
And skinny, like he's still, I think he's like 6'4" or something like that. So he's still a massive guy. But yeah, do you know how fun that would be, though, just to have Batista kind of just show up for something like this? But ultimately, I think, it'll end up being an Edge. I think if they can kind of work something out there. If not, I would be perfectly fine with it being The Rock, or something like that. Just because they do have a story that never got finished.
Needed it.
And if they were saving it for this, it wouldn't be. It would be satisfying, yes, but I think it would miss that buildup just because John Cena won't have any more real appearances after Monday. But yeah, something fun like that. Can you just imagine? It's not announced. And I know that's what they're gonna do, right? That's why they have these surprise. They want you to just tune in, and it's the lightning bolt happens.
Final boss.
Yeah, the final boss there. Something like that. Batista, like I said, comes in, does something with it. Just something fun like that. But yeah, I agree. I want it to be somebody he's had history with that we haven't seen him in the ring with in a while. It'd be nice if he gave somebody the rub, but I just, outside of like a Dominic Mysterio, I don't see, who else he could probably give, a big rub to like that.
Yeah, and it's just it just feels like such a historic moment or character at least that they're going to write it off. You got to do it right. I mean, I remember Kurt Angle obviously going out to Baron Corbin. Maybe it worked for a second, but Baron Corbin's no longer even with the company. He went, through several character changes after that. So, I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to really find somebody, especially with Cena, that it would really work for. And that's why I mentioned earlier, like a Damian Priest. I just don't think he's at that type of spot where it's like, man, he needs that last push to get him into it. They really like Jey Uso, but how old is he? I don't know if he's ready if this is the spot for it. So we'll see what they do there, but it should be a lot of fun this week. A lot of the storytelling is going to be based around that. So I think that's going to be fun for this week. Let's go ahead and jump into Raw here. Last time we saw CM Punk, he beat Jey Uso in Saturday night's main event. He comes out to celebrate on Raw, and he calls out all different types of people, which is always a good thing to do. A champion, you kind of get different feuds thought in your mind. So he brought up AJ Styles, brought up Finn Balor, Dom Mysterio, Sheamus, even John Cena, as you mentioned earlier, before Logan Paul interrupts and Punk says, anyone but you. And I know, Augie, you probably have similar sentiments to this. Kind of interesting. So Paul was arguing why he should be the next one up. Of course, Paul Heyman, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker made their way to the ring. Paul Heyman had set it up so in the previous week that Braun Breaker defeated LA Knight and thought that was kind of to determine the number one contender. So they didn't necessarily like that. Interesting, kind of set up the rest of the remaining of the show is that Paul kind of made his way out of the ring. Of course, doesn't have any reason to befriend CM Punk at this time, but the numbers were the numbers, and the vision started piling up on Punk. So Paul made his way back in, and Punk was able to clear the ring. So really set it up, and then we found out shortly after they were going to have a tag team, and so CM Punk, it was kind of like, okay, this is generally setting up for, okay, you're going to have those two teams, but they went a little bit of different direction as CM Punk found Jey Uso later backstage, asked if he was Baby Roman and all that. So I had to find their own kind of level of trust there, but very interesting opening segments, a lot of characters involved. But I know you weren't happy when Logan Paul's music hit.
No, I wasn't. And, it makes sense. Logan Paul is still one of the biggest draws in the world, probably, and I say in the world because I think his YouTube videos and everything still hit, millions and millions of views. So he brings the audience in, and he's great in the ring. I just really can't get behind him anymore. It's rough. He gets title shot after title shot. Never gets the big one. It's kind of like a Jey Uso, right? Just kind of gets shoved down there. But then the more you think about it, a Logan Paul CM Punk would kind of make sense, because wasn't it Logan Paul that eliminated CM Punk in the Royal Rumble? Was that right? Am I right?
I don't particularly remember that. That does sound like that could be right.
I want to say it was. And like he kind of made a big deal about it. I mean, because I don't think they even mentioned that on Monday, did they? I don't think they mentioned.
I don't remember anything with that.
Monday was just so long ago. I don't remember everything that happened. Or how it happened correctly there. But I think that would be fine. This whole thing with the Vision is a little messy with them being in it. Because especially what ends up happening at the end, all that stuff there. But I think everybody's reaction was pretty much the same when Logan Paul's music hit. You're like, come on, CM Punk finally has a title belt. You want him to defend it against somebody else. And there's somebody else that could have maybe given a little bit of a better story. But then, like I said, you start thinking about that. So it's fine. CM Punk better not drop it to Logan Paul, because I swear if he drops it in his first title defense, I would be very upset with the WWE.
Well, and that's what it is kind of interesting here, is it does feel, and Logan Paul's been part of this with many champions in the past, as you mentioned. Now he's really good for kind of a filler feud, or at least a first defense type of feud too, where and I at least give him a lot of credit. He's really good in the ring.
Yep.
He's somewhere in between. It depends on how you feel about the guy, and of course he's got a lot more than just wrestling opinions. So that kind of brings that in. He does have, as our show is called and named after, nuclear heat. I think he's probably closest to that in the company. At one time, again, Dominic Mysterio was certainly that. He's you're kind of getting cheers for him now more often than not, and he's kind of turned into one of the crowd favorites. Logan Paul is close to, and I wouldn't call it that, right? We kind of reserve nuclear heat, or these wrestling terms for special groups. I don't think he's quite there, but he can get pretty close to it at certain times. And so I think that works pretty well, at least in that. But they are going to have to do something, and they do have. It looks like they are doing something to make this more interesting. And at some point, that Logan Paul could beat him again, not because of his in-ring skills, just because this has kind of been where we've seen Logan Paul, similar to Drew McIntyre, just kind of recycled into these feuds, but never end up winning the championship. Yeah, and it,
like you said, you got to give him credit. It's going to be a phenomenal, match. And they're high flying. Everybody does kind of love to hate him, so that is the fun part there. And like I said, it better be a filler feud, because if this is how they were to crown Logan Paul, I think that would be a very interesting decision there. And with CM Punk, they can both go on the mic too. So that's kind of it's just that the way Logan Paul talks, I don't know. It's like very, very very 2019, 2000, like the right now. And that just really irks me as it goes on there. But, like I said, it's going to be interesting with the Vision, because, they're around, we'll see, who really gets, all these title shots and whatnot at CM Punk.
Let me ask you this: better than not chance you eventually we say Logan Paul's the champion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. He seems to be a favorite of Triple H, all that stuff there. And honestly, before last year, let's say before November of 2024, I probably would have told you that. I think I've even said Logan Paul is a future, world champion.
Yeah.
Somebody they could probably put on their back, and that's unfortunately still an option for them. And because he's only like 26, 27.
Yeah.
Like I said, uber popular, on YouTube, probably other than Japan and all that stuff. But he's just you can't deny that. He's just somebody that's going to bring millions of views. Something they desperately need, by the way, because it seems like some of their contracts aren't going that great that they signed lately. So bringing somebody back like Logan Paul, yeah, and having him as your top champion, not a bad idea.
Yeah. I think it'll happen. I definitely think if he wants it. I mean, depending on how long he wants to be in it, but kind of has that Miz feel to where he could be in it as long as he wants to because of the outside attention that he could bring into it. Of course, a lot more even than Miz was, just being on some reality shows. But let's get to the second match of the evening. First match of the evening, actually. Second segment of the evening. Stephanie McClure and Nikki Bella against Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. This match was fine between the two of them. I think we got some This Is Awesome chants in between it. Got a little bit sloppy, I think, down the stretch there, but ultimately kind of a good start to maybe getting this feud going. You knew the bad guys were going to have to get a one-up at some point. They do in this match. Just as the champion was trying to get the devil kiss going, Rodriguez blocked it and slammed Vacure into the ring, so she was kind of taken out. This allowed Roxanne Perez to hit Pop Rocks on Nikki Bella and get the victory. Nikki Bella very disappointed after this. I felt like she let Stephanie McClure down. Stephanie didn't seem to be too bothered by it. But of course, this is leading toward another matchup between the two. And eventually, Nikki Bella is going to turn on McClure, and you just wonder how long it's going to be. I feel like they've got to give some wins to Nikki at some point, because in her return, they kind of give her as, okay, she's the Hall of Famer, but she's not really she doesn't seem to be up to speed with the current wrestlers, if you put it that way. So maybe that happens next, and maybe they ultimately win this feud, and then go back into, at that point you get a turn, which is probably the most likely thing to happen. But certainly this week you felt like the heels needed to probably get a one-up unless they're done with the feud.
Yeah, they had to, because I just don't see where else they go with Stephanie, right? So you got to kind of keep that going until, like you said, Nikki gets that turns on her and all that stuff. And I don't know. It's interesting, because I mean, Nikki, it's fine. She's back after a couple years of being away. Stephanie, I think, is doing a good job. She's at least on, she's wrestling. It feels like every week. So that's good there. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe John Cena's last Saturday night main event, is where they finally get their match there. But I'm going to say this, the interesting thing, and they said it during commentary, Nikki Bella is looked at a Hall of Famer, one of the best from the Divas era, right? She only held the Divas Championship twice. And that's mind-boggling to me, because I swear, growing up watching it, she had it all the time. But the fact that she only had it twice, that just shows, how long of a reign can sometimes be bad, because it can make it feel like, she's a 10-time champ. She's not that far ahead of us on championships, on there. So I thought that was interesting. But I'll tell you, I'm more confused on what they're doing with Raquel and Roxanne, because it feels like they're still supposed to be building up Liv Morgan's return, but you took away the championship gold from them, and now you have them feuding with the world champ, but it doesn't seem like either one of them is going to get that chance to really take that gold from her.
Yeah, it is kind of odd, and maybe that's how they do it too. I mean, maybe one of them will get that opportunity. Through Stephanie McClure, and the friendship with Nikki Bella can last a little bit longer. I kind of agree with you there. It does feel like they're just in a holding spot until they can pay off that Liv Morgan angle, which is going to be fantastic when she returns. But it just feels like, okay, for a while they had them as champions. They're going to heat them up again once they need to. But they're very, and usually I'm pretty much against 50-50 booking, right? It's really frustrating, but they don't do 50-50 booking with them as far as wins and losses, right? Just like in a feud to elongate it and make it draw out. They kind of they seem to jump enough around to make enough enemies, right?
Yeah.
That it doesn't make any one of their victories feel all that big, but I just love the fact that basically any match, they've won enough of them that they probably wouldn't have if you're kind of thinking the right direction. And then they've kind of, they drop, you think, well, maybe they're shooting them in the moon, and then they don't do that, but they're very unpredictable whether as much as anybody on the roster, whether they're going to win the match or not.
Yeah, no, they are. And I think it's gotten to the point though, like you said, is it really even an upset if they beat anybody on the roster? Just because, I mean, they have Raquel Rodriguez looking like, like a Titan some nights, and then some nights she gets pinned by, you don't even know who that is. So yeah, that is interesting. I'm just really waiting for Liv Morgan to come back because I really want to see, because it feels like the whole Judgment Day, like the Dom, the Finn, all that is literally just waiting for her to come back for it to just implode, or it's got to implode. You got to think, when she comes back. Point. So yeah, so that injury, it's they're just teasing us, when she's going to come back, and it's been about 3 months now. So I would say next month, probably we might see Liv come back.
Yeah, that would be good. I know she made some news, at least for a dress she wore. I don't really know where she was.
Oh, and the tattoo. I think she got a tattoo of the Riot Squad the day they debuted.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody's like, that was pretty good. Yeah, she got on the back of her neck. Squad. I think I saw. Yeah, I didn't see what she was wearing. I just saw the tattoo. So that's kind of where. Yeah, that's my story on that.
There you go. Let's get into Penta and El Grande Americano. Speaking of somebody that needs a win and 50-50 booking with different feuds, here comes Penta taking on El Grande Americano, flanked by Bravo and Rayo. We ultimately, I don't have to spend too much time on this. Penta did defeat Americano. Americano was given the chance to use his metal slab that he always kind of puts in his mask to try to cheat and get a win. But Penta was able to avoid that and hit a Mexican destroyer for the win. Again, this is a good, Ludwig Kaiser obviously being El Grande Americano. This is a good match that you can have kind of in ring whenever you want to. But I just don't know where these characters are going, right? I mean, at one point it seemed like there was something really interesting and intriguing about El Grande Americano, and the fact that they just had more of them. And now they've kind of named the guys that are hanging around a Grande Americano. And so you don't have that allure of like, where's this going? They're starting to lose a little bit more, which again, and so at some point Chad Gable is going to come back, and that's where that gets interesting. So maybe similar to the women's part of the Judgment Day, you're just kind of waiting for a return from injury. But they've seemed to the Americano thing has seemed to have lost a little bit of its appeal, which wouldn't surprise me at all if they ultimately never had any plan. Sometimes it feels like, okay, they got to pay this off, and sometimes they're just like, we don't have anything to pay it off. It kind of, the crowd started to take into it, so we kind of leaned into that a little bit more. So I'm not sure if there's any payoff at the end of all of this, but on the opposite end of that, Penta getting the win again. Penta is it's such a interesting look, has an interesting look, right?
Yeah.
The crowd's still intrigued by him. People all getting excited for it, and just then again, what has he really done since he's been in the company? It felt like from the beginning, it's like, man, they're gonna push this guy to the moon, and then at some point, I don't know what happened. You never know about backstage politics, all that. I don't know if they felt he lost his shine, but they do feature him enough. They know to give him screen time every week.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And honestly, it could have been that Royal Rumble. He had a bunch of botches. I think he essentially eliminated himself like within minutes. He was supposed to save himself. He didn't get eliminated because they obviously didn't count him out. But yeah, that makes sense there. He still has a crowd behind him. His Cero Miedo is still, he still gets a huge reaction. They're still putting him in countless feuds, for the Intercontinental Champion too. I mean, he's been in a fatal 4-way, a triple threat, all that. But he's always a guy taking the pin. I've noticed on that too. So yeah, that is interesting there. And then back on the Grande Americano thing, I think the biggest issue that you're going to run into with this, Jake, is the fact that you're not going to see your boy Ludwig Kaiser outside of a luchador mask for the next couple months, because I think they've fully committed to him being the Grande Americano. I just think it's like you said, it's kind of the same place of they're just waiting for Chad Gable to come back, and they'll probably wrestle for the mask to see who is, I just don't get it, because it was all fun when you didn't know who it was. There was 4 or 5 of them there, and now they just, they've named them, and
El Grande Americano is even now not even wearing red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we're just getting further away from what made it intriguing, and you're gonna like. I don't know. I don't know if Bravo and Rayo, that I don't think they have long-term potential, right?
No.
So I just don't. And that's where I wonder with Ludwig Kaiser is at some point, I just always felt like still him and Gunther were still good. Like there was still something,
Yeah.
at least some story to tell, at least of that, even with a split. And so I hope they don't get too far until, this kind of El Grande character, because I do think it is. The idea is now that you're supposed to know it's Ludwig. They give you
Yeah.
enough, hints at it. And we saw him back at, backstage. Remember before all this kind of started, and there was a second El Grande Americano, as he was always peeking in and
Yep.
seeing what was happening. So again, a chance maybe to pay all that off, but sometimes those mid-card questions that they leave you from week to week just kind of get thrown to the side, and then you just kind of have some throwaway type of idea to pay off the whole thing. So I don't know. I feel like Americano needs some wins.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I just don't think they had a plan, because they picked a guy from Germany who has a heavy German accent to play a luchador from the Gulf of America. It just, I just don't see where there was a, it's kind of like a what was his name? Festus?
Yeah.
Like, kind of like that kind of a character, right? Like, that's funny for a minute, but I really don't think that can be kind of the final version of it.
Right. It just needs to go somewhere, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's comical, and I was entertained by it for a while, and now it's just kind of like it feels like they're tracking. It's taking a few steps off the path that it
Yep.
would seem to be leading to, and to less comical, and just kind of a wrestler in his group, and they're just not there. It's not red hot. We'll put
Yep.
it that way. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We've got more to talk about. How about Rey Mysterio confronting Dominic Mysterio? Maybe the segment of the night or close to it. We'll get to that. We'll start with that coming up next year on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
After a long, hot summer, are you ready for fall? What about your home? Is your heating system ready for cooler temperatures ahead? Call Bryant for your fall heating check. No matter what brand of equipment you own, Bryant's trained technicians will thoroughly clean and inspect your furnace or heat pump to make sure you stay warm, safe, and comfortable. Call today to schedule your home heating check. 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. Bryant, whatever it takes.
Tired of asking what's for dinner? Nourished for Life has got you covered. At Nourished, they're a local meal prep company that delivers fresh, chef-crafted, healthy meals straight to your door. Made from wholesome ingredients and ready when you are. No shopping, no chopping. Just heat, eat, and enjoy every night of the week. Fuel your busy days with balanced meals that are designed to keep you satisfied and energized. Visit nourishedforlife.co to purchase meals and taste the convenience of home-cooked comfort without the hassle. It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier power sports dealership. Get geared up for savings like you've never seen before during Elway Days. Their biggest sale of the year runs October 14th through the 18th, when every red tag machine is priced at invoice plus $300. That's it. No freight, no setup, no extra fees. Don't miss out on these epic savings. Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered all under one roof, with a large selection of side-by-sides, ATVs, motorcycles, and personal watercraft at their 27th and I-80 location.
Imagine hitting rewind on your life 10, even 20 years. With testosterone therapy from Limitless Male, you can turn back the aging clock and get your edge, energy, and confidence back. If you've lost your drive, sleep deprived, muscle loss, belly fat, irritable, you're not the guy you once were. Get your T levels checked at Limitless Male. More and more men are realizing hormone replacement can turn back the clock. Schedule your free consult at limitlessmale.com.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Husker fans know when you work together, great things happen. At Cornhusker Bank, they're more than your financial partner. With 5 locations in Lincoln and 1 in Omaha, they're your neighbors, your teammates, and your biggest fans. Whether you're saving for your first home, planning your future, or growing your business, they're right here in Nebraska to help you move forward together. Visit cornhusker.bank to learn more. Cornhusker Bank, member FDIC. Doing life together.
Deciding on a college with your high school senior can be a little overwhelming for parents. But applying for money to pay for it is simple. FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is now easier than ever with fewer questions and faster fill-out times. If you have a high school senior, now is the time to apply for thousands of dollars for classes, books, and housing. Get started, Nebraska, at dothefafsa.org. Sponsored by Education Quest Foundation. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Oh, yes, let's talk some more wrestling, shall we, here on 93.7 The Ticket. This is Nuclear Heat, our weekly pro wrestling show from Sunday nights from 9 to 10 here Central Time. Let your pro wrestling friends know about us as we break down the action every week in the WWE. We were just talking about Monday Night Raw. We were getting right up to the Dominic Mysterio promo, where, of course, he has successfully defended his Intercontinental Championship against Rusev in Penta on Saturday night's main event. So he was out there claiming to be the king of the luchadors. Enter his father, Rey Mysterio, who I haven't seen for a while. He was out with a lengthy foot injury, but was able to make it back. Of course, Dom and Rey, they don't get along. So Dom was talking how he was the best luchador of all time. It's kind of funny because in throughout this promo at one time, Dominic Mysterio, obviously they tie in a lot. I mean, he looks exactly like Eddie Guerrero,
Mm-hmm.
so he does a lot of that. Said that he was better than Eddie Guerrero. He also said at one time that it was his father, Eddie Guerrero. So a lot of fun to kind of go and sift through this match. That's why this promo. That's why the crowd was all into it. Eventually, Rey Mysterio got the best of this little duel between them. He ended the segment by delivering a 619 after Dominic tried to take a swing at him. Very interesting. The crowd loved it. It's definitely a feud that they can just kind of go back to whenever they necessarily need to. Survivor Series coming up is in San Diego, the hometown of both the Mysterios. So I expect that will be on the card. There are very few feuds that you could just kind of go back to and everybody. I mean, I always kind of go to the live crowd too. There's all the, from week to week, there's a lot of fans that are there following from week to week. But you always bring a friend or something that's like, well, I haven't watched in a long time. I don't really, it's not, anytime you just have Rey and Dom in the ring, you can explain it pretty quickly and they're interested because of, Rey's a legend, obviously. And Dominic Mysterio is quite the character. So I thought this was great to get it back going into this. But I also specifically think, Dominic Mysterio has never been as over. I mean, this is the height of his career to this point. So it's a good time. We've seen, again, these feuds before. Ray usually ends up spanking Dominic Mysterio and the crowd gets excited for it. But this seems to be one that I think Ray, and we talk about this with, the legends coming back and maybe giving a rub to some of the younger, hotter talent. This is a particularly interesting and different feud that they can kind of have compared to where it's been in the past.
Yeah, it can be, and it's fun because Dom's now a champ, right? So you have to put respect behind the name because, like you said, it was always kind of a one-sided Ray. It's kind of getting the upper hand all the time. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I loved it. I thought this was a really fun segment, especially anytime you can, pay respects to Eddie Guerrero, and anytime Dom can be like, keep my dad's name out your mouth. That's always a funny thing. Because the more and more Dom gets older, the more and more he's starting to look like Eddie Guerrero. And that I just don't understand that. Because Ray's like 5'6", and Dom's probably like 6'1", around there. Eddie wasn't the tallest guy, but he wasn't 5'6". So you're always wondering, like, where'd he get that from?
Of course, the mustache and the mullet.
Yeah, the mustache, the mullet. Kind of just his look, his vibe, just he does the frog splash. He does all, I guess he does both, right? He does it all. And he's a great cheater. So
yeah, he's really started to do that recently. The whole belt toss, and
he's kind of overplaying it though. That's like he's trying to do it like every time he's in a match now. And I think, there's kind of a limit to it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really do hope at Survivor Series, we can get a father-son for the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really, really fun match to see there. And man, wouldn't it just kind of be hilarious to see if Ray could just beat his son and take that title? You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine the storyline they can kind of go off of that? I think that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with this. You're certainly right. I mean, Ray is another one of those guys that can win and lose any match that he's in as well. Just because if he wins, you're like, well, he's one of the greatest,
Yep.
And then, obviously, at this point in his career, you expect him to help some of the other talent over. Again, I think ultimately this is a great feud to add to Dominic's run that he's had here. Of course, as the double champion, the AAA champion, as well as the Intercontinental. And see what you could do there to get this going again. I love it. So no problem there. Real quickly, Becky Lynch jumped on the announcer's desk. So she had a short promo, kind of talked about Seth Rollins and Maxine Dupree, and then kind of had a little confrontation with the Kabuki Warriors. So maybe a partnership with that lined up down the line. Not a whole lot to be said here. Clearly still kind of headed in the direction Maxine Dupree. I never thought this feud would go as far as it had, but I think it's been good. And I talked about it earlier, how I just love all the mid-card titles. She's part of this. I think she is very much helped that Intercontinental title that they introduced, less than a year ago. And the idea from me from the beginning was give it to Bayley, give it to Becky, give it to somebody, make it credible. And she's made it credible, and she's one of the best heels in the company right now.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this on top of all of that, right? How she has her match with Maxine Dupree. It's starting to look like Maxine Dupree is going to take that title away from her, because the way they're building it up, and she's saying she's got to talk to, to Sawa, to Otis, I think even. She's taking her time. She'll be the one that determines the time and place. They're really setting it up to where Maxine Dupree, who we talked about, probably one of the worst wrestlers we've seen, really improved. They might have her be the one that pins Bayley or Becky Lynch. Can you imagine what that would do for her career there, though? I mean, that'd be such a jumpstart. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Becky Lynch with this Intercontinental Championship, she's been great. She's been infused with AJ Lee. To see, been with Seth Rollins, kind of really elevated it, as we kind of talked about. So yeah, that's been really fun there, and I think she did a good job on Monday, kind of just going about it that rant.
Yeah, we better get going a little bit. I just realized we still got a few matches to talk about on Raw here. So Bayley and Lyra Valkyria take on Asuka and Kairi Sane. This was a match here late. Of course, you never know what to expect from Bayley. So ultimately, we had the Kabuki Warriors defeat Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Trying to remember how that one kind of went down because I don't have it in my notes, but I think Valkyria. So yeah, Asuka locked Valkyria in the Asuka lock to force the submission to win. And then we saw Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss come down to make the save as they were going after a little bit of a beatdown. We can tie this into SmackDown as well. Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss kind of licking their wounds in the back. Asuka, as the doctor, they didn't see it coming, blew the mist in their face. So clearly we're headed toward Kabuki Warriors and Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. And then Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, of course, are going to have their own thing at some point. The beef that that they've kind of been building up as friends that are eventually going to turn, and you won't know where Bayley goes. So I think altogether, I mean, this is just good use of everybody involved in the world in the tag team titles. Of course, being as a part of this, a lot of singles competitors that are single stars coming in to make the tag team title division really good, and I appreciate it because it makes it. It hasn't always been that way. We'll put it that way with WWE, but it's a little bit different than kind of the SmackDown tag team that we see, where it's like testing your up and coming stars, not yet single stars. So it's a little bit of a different approach, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We talk about it. Sometimes it takes putting those two the superstars who aren't tag teams, putting them together and letting them go. And I think, like you said, a lot of these characters weren't doing anything. So it's nice to see them kind of in feuds and some of them holding titles.
And then we will just mention real quick the World Tag Team Championships on the men's side. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee defeated the Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio out there trying to help them, which I thought was kind of interesting. They were not necessarily all that happy with Dominic backstage before this. So Roxanne Perez told Mysterio to go out there and help. Usually that would be Mysterio find some way to cost them to get the win. Not so much the case here. He was helping them until Sheamus came out and went after Dirty Dom, so we could see him maybe be the next in the line for the Intercontinental Championship there against Dirty Dom. But all of this allowed the Phenomenal One to deliver a Styles Clash on McDonough to get the win. So I mean, and these guys, they had a match a couple weeks ago, which was fantastic. Of course, when Dragon Lee and AJ Styles did win that match. So this was just kind of the rematch there. So I don't know necessarily what's next. We've talked about the Judgment Day quite a bit. Styles and Lee, though, will probably move on to get some more top end opponents. But I did want to talk about the main event real quick. CM Punk and Jey Uso versus The Vision. We had Let's Go Uso chants coming down from the stands. So people still excited about that. But ultimately, I don't have to talk about the match because it ended up in a double countout. They were just, they were more focused on beating each other than getting the win. It started to kind of get interesting as chairs kind of got into the mix. Punk grabbed a chair to try to defend himself out there. Logan Paul came into the ring. Of course, Jey Uso was knocked out, was cleared out of it by now. Looked as if he was going to maybe help defend against the Vision, but instead he used his brass knuckles to hit CM Punk, and so that's how we kind of ended the show with the Vision in Paul maybe coming together. It's unclear whether they're necessarily going to be a group together, but he did handle the knuckles, the brass knuckles over to Paul Heyman, so maybe a pairing there as well. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see. I mean, Seth Rollins leaves the group. You kind of have Logan Paul in there for a little bit. I think that could be a fun little trio. Yeah, to have it, and Logan can kind of be the voice for them.
Which is interesting though, because I do want to see what happens next, because you still have, and of course, again, that's the goal of wrestling, right? Is did you get you to tune in next week? Braun Breaker at the beginning of the show arguing I'm next in line. Logan Paul, arguing that he was next in line, and now maybe if are they together, or are they all going to go after CM Punk, or who's ultimately going to get the match? Yeah. We assume it's going to be, Logan Paul, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know how they're going to be able to tell Braun Breaker again to cool off, and that he didn't necessarily deserve it, because that's the way Paul Heyman phrased it to him earlier.
Yeah, very, very short-lived, I think, alliance is going to happen here. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. It'll be Logan, and then I think Braun Breaker will get involved in, costing him, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take another quick break. We've got to talk about SmackDown when we return here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Fall is here, and so are cooler temps, darker evenings, and slick roads. Is your vehicle ready for the change in seasons? At A1 Automotive, we've got you covered. From tire checks, brake inspections, batteries, and heater systems, we make sure your car is road ready for the Nebraska winters ahead. Don't wait until the first frost. Schedule your fall car care checkup today and drive with confidence all season long. A1 Automotive, Always honest answers.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at doorsplusllc.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Indeed, it is time to talk some pro wrestling here. Let's talk some SmackDown as we finish out our final segment here on Nuclear Heat. SmackDown was interesting this week for a variety of reasons. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the show. Cody Rhodes did open up the show looking for his next challenger. Surprising to, I think, a lot of people, Aleister Black showed up, of course, the former AEW rival. Yeah. So a little bit of interesting there as that kind of set up the main event for later in the evening. Once again, it's just something new. Doesn't necessarily have to be. When I initially saw it, like, are they going to be able to pull off a feud between the two? And maybe they still will. But I mean, I'm completely okay if this was a one night, kind of off type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was something new. We haven't seen Aleister Black go after a championship, so that was fun. And kind of seeing Zelina, which is now just her name, right? Kind of interfering and really slapping Cody there, you know, to start that segment. I think that kind of caught Cody off guard by his reaction. And I know it's all acting, but seemed like she really got him. But yeah, it was fun to see for one time.
For our first match of the night, Ilya Dragunov made his way to the ring, trying to challenge his next in the United States Challenge. Of course, coming off a pretty interesting match with Nathan Frazier, at least athletic match between the two. Ciampa came out. He wanted to be the challenger, but instead, Ilya Dragunov talked him into instead just taking on Gargano, his partner. So that was interesting. Johnny Wrestling was in the corner. He's like, I guess I'll do it. Ciampa allowed it to happen. Very good match between the two. As I was talking about earlier, Dragunov usually does put on some pretty good ones, and Johnny Wrestling has earned that name for a reason. But ultimately, Dragunov was able to defeat Gargano, and of course, eventually we're going to get Ciampa in there to go after Dragunov in this United States Championship, which I think they've done a good job of kind of building that. But again, not sure if I feel like either one of those guys is going to win. So right now, Dragunov is kind of going through tag team singles type of dudes, and again, that can work for now. They want to build Dragunov up a little bit. You kind of give him a big deal by beating Sami Zayn, so you want to make it pay off. But still waiting. We see a little bit in the back. The MFT's still barking a little bit, and I think eventually, once we get through this Ciampa business, that's what I'm mostly interested to see is there's so many of them now. I'm trying to think of it. Tonga Loa. Tonga Loa, yeah, my favorite among the group. Seems to be the guy that ultimately is going to I don't know if take on Dragunov or take the belt off of him, but certainly give him his biggest test.
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder there. I was going to say, no, the one I'm most excited for is the MFTs. But yeah, I thought this was a fine match. Dragunov, I think, for not knowing him as much and being away for 13 months, I think he's done a fine job coming back and continuing the US Open Challenge. And I've been putting on great matches. So yeah, we'll just kind of see where that keeps going.
Next up, we did have an appearance from Jade Cargill, the new women's champion. Not much here. She just came out. She said she is that B word. So I'm interested to see if she embraces it. How are they going to, if you know WWE, that's how you really offend somebody. So if she embraces the B word, how are they going to get really serious when they need to? Joking aside, I thought it was effective. You didn't need Jade Cargill to go off on this big rant. She looks imposing as she always has. And so I thought that was pretty good. Then we saw Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss make their way to the ring. Interesting. Quite a bit of a stare down, maybe almost a little bit dust up, even if you will, between Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill. So we could see that eventually, or maybe that's just teasing. A legend bypassing the new champion, one way or the other. That I thought that was interesting. And then I was just interested, like, where are we going with this Nia Jax thing? Well, we found out Jax defeated Flair, but a lot of it due to the help of a new friend for her, Lash Legend, who talk about physically imposing. She definitely has that going on her as for her as well. The NXT call up that we've seen on the main roster before, but it had been a while, so it was good enough of a surprise to see there. Something new for Nia Jax,
Yeah.
I think. The only problem I have with this is it feels an odd time, and maybe they are setting these two up to go after Jade Cargill. But I mean, this isn't even a segment apart. You're trying to show Jade Cargill as this like physical beast that's going to be tough to take down, and then at the same time, it doesn't take you 20 minutes to get, okay, here's another physical beast to be scared of, but she's doing her own thing. So it's just kind of like, all right, I feel like some space in between those segments could have helped a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And because Lash Legend, I mean, is essentially Jade Cargo, right? Like they're both they look,
physically imposing,
yeah. So it's gonna be fun whenever those two kind of collide. Can be like the Spider-Man memes, it's like looking at each other. But it's refreshing for Nia Jax. I think you'll put her in the tag team champion or the tag team picture. Because I assume with Lash Legend, this will probably be a pairing that they'll have. And they'll go after whoever the tag team champs are. And that's refreshing for your girl Nia, because I'm telling you the truth. I'm tired of seeing her get all these championship opportunities. I'd rather it be over the tag team titles. Because she's entertaining. So, you pair her with somebody like that, show her the ropes. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, just the single stars or the tag team duos that they're putting together on the women's side. It's almost as if they, I don't know, read comments or heard from people that were frustrated about their treatment of the women's tag team division. They sure are taking care of it now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And I think it's always like going back to like John Cena, Shawn Michaels, kind of when the WrestleMania feud, they would put them together, they'd win the tag titles. You kind of have that. That's always fun. And so, maybe they're taking that playbook out because, like you said, even on the men's side, the tag team titles were just horrible, right? They were just doing a horrible job, and now they're doing a pretty decent job of getting all these single stars involved.
All right, to the match of the night, Julia versus Chelsea Green for the U.S. title. Chelsea Green had recently become a champion here with Ethan Page in AAA as part of their mixed tag team belts that they have there. So looking for a double champion. Didn't necessarily feel like it was likely. Of course, Chelsea has lost a few of these since she won the title. And Julia just needed something, right? I mean, I thought, okay, at least they're putting Chelsea Green with her. This can at least be entertaining. And Julia really needs that because she just has, you talk about no aura again.
Yeah.
She just hasn't had it since winning that belt. The pairing with her manager hasn't necessarily done a whole lot to help either. But to our surprise, Chelsea Green was able to get the win. She got a roll up. Kiana James was taken out, she was distracted because Alba Fire and Kiana James were fighting ringside. And then Green rolled up Julia and put her feet on the top of the rope. So she cheated to do it, but she got the win. And now Chelsea Green is your first two-time United States champion. I think they said earlier in the show she had just been surpassed about how long her title date had run. So I suppose you can't put that on there. But she is a double champion. So I can't have any problem. Once again, love it with the Intercontinental. I always talk about the mid-card belts doing really well on the Intercontinental side, the U.S. Open Challenge. I think that's been really successful. We talked about Becky earlier. We talked about Dom, and now Chelsea Green. I like mid-card. I like exactly where they are with the mid-card right now.
Yeah, they're doing a great job now, but let's talk. Julia was having a horrible U.S. championship reign. So this was a big-time save. And I think it kind of just shows that they should have never taken the belts off of Chelsea Green because, who knows, where her storyline would be right now. But yeah, they got it back. It was fun. They need to, go back to, they still have the Secret Hervis, or I guess it's just one person now, right? Yeah. On there with her. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's amazing to see Chelsea Green back as a champion, and hopefully she has a long title reign and, has some interesting feuds. Because this is like the best thing for WWE, right? For Chelsea Green to be that champion. She's a double champ, as you said, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Now, it's interesting with those two. And I think, again, these mid cards, you can help characters that, are younger and kind of building their careers. And so specifically with Dom, who cheats a lot to win, Chelsea Green, who, can really go in the ring, but is a bit of an idiot, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what a Karen mixed with, just not the smartest. Her character is not the smartest in any way, but she's really good in the ring. Do you think that they can ever? Do they need changes in character to reach top belt status?
Not always. Sometimes it just takes a moment, right? Like we've seen it with Chelsea Green. She's kind of been this same character for a while. On their Dom has kind of been, he did turn on his dad. Look at John Cena. I mean, he was somebody that was about to get fired, right? And they did change it. I guess for him they did change it, right? They had to change it because he was like Ruthless Suggestion. They went to this rapper or whatever he was. It really just depends. It like you said, it just depends. The moment, kind of just who it is as well. On there, but yeah, I mean, for somebody like a Julia, I think she needs to do something because I forgot she was U.S. champ because it's just been so bad. And the rumors are the reason they dropped the U.S. titles because they want her to be elevated. So they want her to maybe go after one of the world champs. And after that U.S. championship reign, I don't know how you can think that.
Yeah, they signed their contracts. They're very excited about it. There's a reason they put the belt on her. But there's again, I hate to always go back to the language barrier, which is why they have a manager for her, and Keanu James has been fine enough. It's just they definitely feel mid card, but not mid card champ.
Yeah,
and so we'll see what they do with it if she goes after it. I wouldn't expect her to win it anytime soon. But going back to that Chelsea Green is how close. Remember, she was at the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
With at one point in her career, what a year and a half ago or something to try to get the Money in the Bank briefcase. So right then, they ended up having Tiffany Stratton go over in that moment, and of course we see what happened to occur since then. But who knows what would happen if they would have pulled it with Chelsea there? The crowd was behind it; would have been fine. So hopefully they finally see what we see in Chelsea Green. Quickly, Ray Phoenix and Tala Tonga. Again, that's part of the MFTs kind of taking over, or trying to anyways. The Motor City Machine Guns and Shinsuke Nakamura got involved early in this match. Hopefully, Tonga defeated Phoenix. Phoenix put on a good match. Sami Zayn comes down to make the save by the end before the MFTs kind of pile on him. Interesting. I think they did a good job of highlighting Phoenix and showing that it's a match, but they really aren't protecting Tala Tonga as well as they have giants in the past. And just the fact that he's a giant with that certain lineage, I would have thought they would have handled that better. Even him, they brought him in after Tala Tonga and Tonga Loa. Maybe even bringing him before then. I know contracts and again, and when they're ready and all that. But they're trying to do something with him, but I just feel like they need to protect him a little more.
Yeah, no, 100%. When he came in, he was supposed to be this next big thing, right? And he's taking losses and, kind of falling into the background. Yeah, he's still the muscle, but once they start losing kind of on a regular basis or a part of a losing team, it kind of takes away, the aura, as the kids say, with
just like Omos, they didn't knock Omos down for like a year and a half. Like he never fell on his knees or to the ground. It was a big moment when it happened. And Tala Tonga is like they just knock him down left and right every week.
Yeah, I mean, even look at Solo Sikoa. He was unbeaten. Until they decided to put him in that blood. Just kind of he was a sacrificial lamb for it all, and he's not that big. And you think you have this guy come in who's everybody was excited for. Like Jacob Fatu. He went a while, and you're right. They're not doing the same thing for him.
Yeah, we'll see. They're clearly trying to do something with him. Ray Phoenix on the opposite end. I mean, this. Ray Phoenix, Sami Zayn, Nakamura, Motor City Machine Guns. I mean, I like that the MFTs are making their enemies, but just a big bowl of good guy soup, and I never necessarily like that.
Survivor Series, man, is around the corner. They're going to have the MFTs versus Sami Zayn's crew. I think that's kind of they're just going to have a bunch of 5-on-5s. They're just going to have a bunch of groups against each other, and I'm actually all here for it. I think that could be a fun premium live event.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do love it's weird to say, but I do love the MFT's face paint.
Yeah.
It's weird how, the details matter in wrestling, but they felt really lost without it. Now they kind of feel like a unified front, and still waiting to see if Solo Sikoa, when he gets in the ring, if he will wear the face paint as well. So definitely intrigued by that. We get to the main event here. Cody Rhodes against Aleister Black. Non-title match, but still a chance for A chance for Aleister Black to show he's worth going after the title. Not necessarily anything too intriguing about this match until we get to the craziness at the end. Maybe one of my favorite moments of the year. You're focused on what's going on. Cody Rhodes laid out, Aleister Black worn out. And then from out of nowhere, Claymore kick to the ref from Drew McIntyre. Just the way they framed it was perfect because you're just kind of focused on Cody. So your eyes aren't drawn to the ref naturally. He's on the screen, but as usual, you're not necessarily looking at him. And then just from nowhere comes a Claymore from Drew McIntyre. So this ended up being, all these guys kind of starting brawling with each other. And so it ended in no contest. Obviously, the ref wiped out. Damian Priest come down to the ring to kind of even the odds. He's still got business to take care of with Aleister Black, which I feel like Damian Priest has lost so much. I mean, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't know why they keep running with it. I felt like it had a good conclusion with the thrown fireball and all that, but they're continuing with that. I'm not necessarily intrigued by that moving forward, but certainly intrigued by Drew McIntyre, who before the show was over, Nick Aldis came out and said he's suspended, which of course means he might miss next week, but he'll be back and causing havoc. The other thing that's kind of interesting with him, though, this week is he kind of acknowledged what we've been complaining about to a degree here on the show, is that his character just kind of needs something and something different. It's kind of the same thing for him. And he kind of acknowledged that, I believe, on social media this past week. And then I thought, intriguingly, was wearing a white shirt, just kind of wearing lighter colors. I don't know if that was his idea or just trying to do something different. This is a little bit of something different with him, right? As far as him against the company, maybe not, less than him against, whoever's holding the belt. He's always the guy that's dancing with the champion, but not quite winning. One way or the other, the new thing to me that I found so much entertainment was the Claymore kick to the ref.
It was great. It was a great way to bring him into it. Kind of a good way to end it. A good SmackDown, right? Like we've been talking, SmackDown's maybe been pretty bad. I think the attendance and like the viewership has been some of the lowest.
The previous week was.
I think the lowest ever, right? That it's had since it debuted. And that's not good to hear, for the WWE. But hey, they listened to us. Chelsea Green won the championship back. They had the funny moments on there. So, here's to hoping that they just continue to elevate it because, as WWE fans, it hurts, one, you see product that's not great, but two, then you see that a lot of people are tuning out to it. This is something, we grew up with. We don't want it to see it go away or just turn into a pile of trash, which it seems like that's kind of where it was going. So they got some work to do, but they were trending on the right direction for this SmackDown.
Yeah, there's certainly been years where it's better than others. We all know as pro wrestling fans, you can't just turn on any episode to try to get your friends back into it or any part of the episode. There's going to be something for everybody. And then there's just some stuff you go, I can't believe I'm still watching this. But thankfully, there hasn't been too much of that recently. And I thought this was a really intriguing week of wrestling. And like we said, I think further going to be intriguing this week with John Cena's tournament. So that should be a lot of fun here as we get things going here in the pro wrestling scene. We will talk about it again next week, Sunday from 9 to 10 on Nuclear Heat. Thanks for joining us. Tell your wrestling friends about us. Share us on social media. And we'll talk to you guys next week.